Hello viewers, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today or this evening, wherever you are? What a great start to the impeachment inquiry. I've been watching a little bit of it here in Australia, and my impressions are that, well, first of all, Adam Schiff is doing extremely well. He's just conducting it fairly. He's conducting it with a firm hand, and I'm really given the amount of attacks on him. Again, the GOP talked about him meeting secretly with the whistleblower. Again, Adam Schiff said, I'll say this now, and I'll say it will be true now, and it'll be true for the 40th time that they say this. I didn't meet with the whistleblower. So he just seems to be, doing really well. And of course, we had that priceless moment. And yes, I agree. I don't like listening to Jim Jordan either. He's just his voice. It's like he's in the gymnasium, and I don't want to sound cute, but Jim Jordan is probably good at some things in that gymnasium, but in the hallowed halls of an impeachment inquiry in Congress, a very grave matter, the GOP are coming off like a rowdy, unruly crowd in a circus, and Adam Schiff is the authority, just allowing them to speak their conspiracy theories, cutting them off when they need to be cut off, and moving on with the business at hand, and that is allowing those wonderful, public servants and patriots to speak their truth and enlighten us all. And I do feel that's what's happening. A couple of things over the last couple of days, and I'll get into the reading in a minute because we've got a lot to cover. But I woke up yesterday morning thinking we've been skirting around the obvious that Donald Trump is someone that is doing Russia's bidding, that he probably, and we haven't got that evidence yet, so it's an alleged. He probably has allegedly been involved with the Russians for decades. And we're in a situation now globally where, the US is becoming more isolated, and other nations are having to step forward and take their own actions and understand that the US at this point in time is not there for them. Meanwhile, we've got dominating countries like Russia and China, pushing forward into areas where Western democracies may have been fair and may have been following the rule of law. You now have people like Erdogan and Putin pushing into fairly vulnerable countries and establishing geopolitical influence. Meanwhile, we've got this nuclear arms race now restarting. So the world is a less safe place because of Donald Trump, which makes the impeachment inquiry all the more important. And it is a very grave and serious thing. So I feel it's going well for the Democrats. I feel that they are making headway because when I woke up this morning and I listened to some of those testimonies, I thought, really, this is the rule of law versus unlawfulness. It boils down to that. A rowdy mob in the centre of a town square with their stones and their yelling and their, unlawful behaviour versus the rule of law. And it's come down to that. All right, so let's have a look at how the impeachment is going from a predictive point of view. My intuitive feelings is it's going very well. But let's see what the tarot has got to say. How is the impeachment inquiry going? Is it actually influencing? Will it help people make their minds up about Donald Trump? And that's really the bottom line. Will the impeachment inquiry help people make their minds up about this president, about Donald Trump. Impeachment inquiry, Trump. All right, so let's have a look. So we have the King of Cups, and that is lovely. As a signifier card, I'm using my Aquarian deck today, and I've also got my, I think it's my Raphael Light deck, pre-Raphael Light deck, as well, which I might pull out for some subsequent questions. So the King of Cups energy. This is a more firm but benign leadership emerging, and it's very significant. Some some say this is Adam Schiff, but it's a bit more than that. It's actually the rule of law, but it's not a cruel rule of law. It's not a vindictive rule of law. It's not a self-interested rule of law. It is a firm and a benign and unconditional. I think that's the way to describe this, an unconditional rule of law. Okay, so that's the signifier card. That's the signifier card. The challenge here is victory. So this is the impeachment inquiry, and I love how the tarot will drill right down to the guts of it, doesn't it? This is a battle now to bring these kind of energies through. And it's showing me that the GOP they know it, that this is the kind of energy that's moving through, because these are the kind of leaders that people are looking for, and they want to retain their power, and so they will undermine, they will push forward these conspiracy theories. They will be the rowdy crowd in the town square, and they will try and overcome the King of Cups, in this case Adam Schiff and the Democrats who are conducting the inquiry. So it is a win at all cost strategy they're bringing forward, but I don't think it's working. Well, I know it's not working. Okay, because they're not offering up any evidence. We kind of over the town square antics, aren't we? These are kind of, we may have been shocked by them in 2016-17. How on earth could this type of energy prevail when it's obviously so not just unfair, but it's incorrect. It's wrong on all sorts of levels. That was 2016-17, taken a bit by surprise. Now, look at this king. Look at this king. This king has learnt. This king has learnt discernment. This king has learnt maturity. This king has learnt control. Okay, so let's have a look at what the rest of the reading will bring forward. We've got the Temperance card, which is the foundation of the reading. Ultimately, this impeachment inquiry, one way or another, regardless of the trial in the Senate, will bring forward a rebalancing, will bring more balance back into the world. Okay. In the past, we have the Queen of Rods, and in other decks, this is the Queen of Wands. This card came up, it was a precursor to the Democrats taking the House in 2018. I'd like to think that this is the movement, the inspiration, the passion, the motivation, particularly the motivation we've got this wreath here for 2020, for voters to come out in 2020. So the past is actually, it's actually working its way through American politics at the moment. The same sort of conditions that propelled the win in the midterm for the Democrats is here now in this impeachment inquiry. Let's have a look at what's in the sky. Okay, what's crowning this question is the Three of Pentacles, and this is teamwork. I felt today that when I watched those the examination and the cross-examination of witnesses, I actually felt the Democrats literally had their act together. This was different from the Mueller inquiry. The Democrats have attained this kind of a maturity. It's been hard fought, I might add, and it's been pretty painful. But they're coming together as a cohesive team. And another aspect of the Three of Pentacles is fixing something. So they've got the skills, they've got the abilities and the capability to actually put in the work to fix something and create something new. So this impeachment inquiry has got like the seeds of the future in it, and it is a very, very serious occasion. Look, I think there's victory here with this Four of Wands. There's victory here. As I said, the Republicans don't have much to offer. At the beginning of each examination of the witnesses, they bring forward an op-ed that was written in 2016 about, Taylor, I think Taylor or one of the diplomats saying Obama didn't do XYZ in Ukraine. I mean, this is informed opinion, but they're bringing forward, they're relying on this flimsy, unrelated matter. Mainly newspaper reports. Op-eds and things like that to counteract some really damning evidence of the president. And as a result, we are all sitting back here, and I'll ask about what the viewers are thinking, and particularly Republicans. We're all sitting back here and going, this is like a we've got the rule of law versus the unruly mob in the town square that really should sit down and take a seat. So I do feel there's victory there for Schiff. At the moment, we've got the Seven of Rods. Now, I'll bring the laptop down. I'd like to say that this is the Republicans having to defend themselves. This is Trump having to defend himself, and it is. But it's also understanding that there needs to be barriers put in front of the unruly mob in the town square. And, of course, this is what Schiff is doing. This is what the Democrats are doing. But the Democrats, it's not just the Democrats. It's not just Adam Schiff. They are being bolstered by the majority's, seeing the truth. And if you looked at my 1111 Gateway reading, you'll see that some of that energy, the truth, not just having knowledge, but an awareness of truth. It is the awareness that's currently operating throughout politics now that has changed from 2016-17. And so it makes it difficult for the Republicans to get any traction. But they will try. They will try. Okay, so we've got the King of Swords, and this is the investigators and the investigation. Now, I'm going to say something about this King of Swords, because at the same time we've got Roger Stone's trial going on at the moment. Without speaking out of turn, because he hasn't been found guilty or innocent yet, the prosecutors, which are the Mueller prosecutors, are really laying down a misere. It's a lay-down misere. Stone has very little defence to offer, and the Mueller prosecutors are really gaining traction. So you can see the difference between 2016-17 and the beginning of 2018, in which Mueller and his team operated against the tide, against the tsunami of the townsfolk who were out of control. You've actually got the rule of law in a much stronger position now than what it was, and that's why the GOP are finding it difficult. They really are. So the hopes and fears, we've got the judgment card, and why wouldn't we have the judgment card? People want an ending to this Trump presidency. Let's not beat around the bush. We know that he has thrown many things to Vladimir Putin. We now know that Vladimir Putin is in a much stronger position now than what he was in 2015, 16, even 17. He has now had a successful foray into the Middle East and holds very strategic territory in Syria that he didn't have before. And we know that people like President Erdogan, who is, let's face it, a dictator, is now visiting the White House. And this was like 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago, whenever it was, that he threatened the EU if they put sanctions on him for his role in Syria with releasing ISIS into Europe, the prisoners that Turkey holds, and releasing, I think it was 4 million refugees, something like that, flooding Europe. So that person now is visiting, has a visit with Donald Trump in the White House. There is significant, combined with the impeachment inquiry, there is significant judgment, remembering that we have an awareness of truth now, and there is significant judgment against Donald Trump. What he got away with before, he will not get away with now. So the outcome, the Eight of Pentacles, and this is the work, how is the impeachment inquiry going? There is a solid foundation of work that the impeachment inquiry team has put in, and this is again what will bring forward, what will bring forward a quality about the evidence that's coming forward that the GOP and with their rocks and their insults will not be able to match. So that literally is the difference. Now this card came up because I'm seeing Mueller again in all of this. This card in the Mueller investigation was my card for Mueller. And so what this is telling me is that the groundwork and the quality and the law, the evidence has already been laid, and it will be very, very telling with this impeachment inquiry. So it's going to go well. It absolutely is going to go well. This is the Sun card, Major Arcana, predicting success. Why? Because of the groundwork and the work that has been laid. We're talking about evidence, we're talking about law, and things are going to actually get better because of this impeachment inquiry. So those that are thinking the unruly mob will, in the Senate hijack this, etc., I think you'll find that it will be very difficult for Republicans in that trial, if it ever does proceed to trial, to actually undermine the rule of law because of the work that has been done in this impeachment inquiry, because of the testimony of people like Ambassador Bill Taylor and Kent and Fiona Hill and Maria Yovanovitch, all of those wonderful people that had the courage to step forward. And that's what progress is. Progress is forged in the iron of the fire in the forge. It's not forged, easily in the town square. It's forged in that fire. So it's not been easy for these witnesses, not been easy at all. We've got underneath at the base of the pack, there has been, it's been hard going, and that's why Adam Schiff deserves a lot of support. The whistleblower, again, the Page of Swords, bringing out the information, and the Three of Cups, celebration, and we finally got the government and the rule of law prevailing. With this Page of Swords, I feel this also represents some witnesses that may have been, I guess, aiding Trump's obstruction, who may actually come forward. We had Sonderland changing his testimony. There's going to be a little bit more of that. But look, first to the impeachment inquiry, let's ask if the average voter, it's very hard to define the average voter, are independents, well, let's ask if independents and Republican voters, the majority or the percentage, okay, some, what are independent and Republican voters thinking of this impeachment inquiry, I think is the question. What are independent and Republican voters thinking about this impeachment inquiry as it proceeds across our television screens? Those that may not necessarily have supported this before are now seeing it televised. They're seeing people like Ambassador Taylor, quality evidence, the rule of law, and you're seeing the unlawful town mob as a contrast. What are the independent and Republican voters thinking? What are the independent and Republican voters thinking? What are the independent and Republican voters thinking? Yep. Okay, so I was getting images of that scorpion, like a skeleton, a spine as well. So again, we've got this Eight of Pentacles, this quality work, this painstaking work that establishes a particular thing, challenged by greed and avarice, challenged by the demon. So, so here we've got, what are they thinking? They're seeing the evidence, and this Eight of Pentacles is the evidence mounting up, but it's quality evidence as well. It's really irrefutable evidence. And what is that challenged by? The devil, greed, avarice, being chained to somebody who is not. They're seeing the contrast, basically. They're seeing the contrast. If this is Trump and this is his minions, they're seeing the contrast. I was thinking also this morning that people like Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz and co actually will be long forgotten. Well, they won't be long forgotten, but they'll be remembered as those as that unruly mob of little substance in history. Their views are potentially changing fairly quickly. This is borne out in the polls that we're seeing. We're getting sort of eight-point rises in the view that this president should be impeached. The chariot is very difficult to hold back, and so it will be up to the Democrats to calm everything down and make sure that this is the prevailing influence, and they're doing a good job of that so far. What have we got in the past? Bipartisanship, but it is in the past position. This is the factionalism, the fighting, taking sides, yada, yada, yada. The more base level, the unruly mob level of politics that really needs to change. And this is the contrast. So again, I bring myself back to contrasting between the unruly mob with lack of evidence, lack of substance, conspiracy theories aplenty, versus this Eight of Pentacles, the rule of law, logic, objectivity, etc. Okay, so this is what the swinging voters are seeing. So Trump has never really had a strategy other than the unruly mob and the conspiracy theories and potential alleged unlawfulness. It's not going to work this time. It is not going to work. Okay, so we have crowning this is Russia. So every time we talk about Ukraine in that impeachment inquiry, people's minds are going to Russia. There has been enough evidence established by Trump and his team alone to make some Republicans, not all, but some Republicans and certainly independent voters wary of the relationship between Trump and Russia. So I brought up the Stone inquiry as well. We know that Julian Assange was aided by Russia to release the Clinton emails. We know that this was a campaign strategy, which the president was well aware of. We've got Gates saying in the Stone trial that the president was on the phone to Stone asking about the emails and being briefed on the emails. What are they seeing? They're seeing an abuse of power. They're seeing an abuse of power potentially around Russia. We've got what's occurring now, and when I asked what deck I should use, this card dropped out. It's around retreat and being wounded. And so why is this happening to Donald Trump? Why is this happening to those that support him? It's because they've abused their power. And what is at central to this question is Russia. So we've got the Ten of Swords, and this is the political reality for Donald Trump and the Republicans at the moment. It's this. So, bipartisanship is in the past. It's been replaced throughout this inquiry with this painstaking gathering of evidence and the testimony of people like Ambassador Bill Taylor. The hopes and the fears, we've got, even independent voters and some Republicans. We had Jim Jordan, I think, shouting at Ambassador Taylor, a war hero, someone who's 50 years of service to his country, diplomatic service as well. A fairer, more unbiased, upstanding type of person you wouldn't get. And Jim Jordan, the wrestling coach from Ohio, is he from Ohio? Whatever. Yelling at him like he was in the locker room. And this, unfortunately, is what will sway a lot of voters that may have supported Trump. Basically, the GOP are doing themselves no favours. And for some, this is causing a lot of sleepless nights. This is the 9 of Swords. So we've got the 4 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, the 9 of Swords. It's going to be a rebalancing with this Temperance card. So I'm not sure when the impeachment inquiry finishes up, but by the time we get to December, there's almost going to be demands that this president be removed. This is why I don't want to even go to the Senate trial yet, because things can change, but we're a long way from that. We've also got whistleblowers. Why has this rebalancing come about? Largely because the courage of the whistleblowers, and Adam Schiff is absolutely right to protect them. And the law should protect them as well. It's hard going for this president. Most people understand this is a presidency in its dying throes. We've got theft and betrayal. This is all really what's going on now, and we've got loss of the 5 of Cups and the reaction to that loss. This is what's going on now politically. People are understanding the level of betrayal. And again, this has come up in a reading where Russia is crowning this question for Republicans and independent voters. The death card, how long has that been coming up for this president? Yeah, you've seen the cards. All right, so look, I'm going to close this impeachment. And people have inquiries, they'll request, they'll come forward and they'll say, well, when is he leaving, or will he get to 2020, or will we win in 2020? Let's just concentrate on the impeachment inquiry at this point in time. It's going really well. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to leave this there, and then I'm going to open up another, because I've got a couple of more questions that people have been asking. Why did Nikki Haley do what she did? Very silly move. Imagine that clip being played in 10 years. Roger Stone, will he be found guilty? I'm thinking he will. And DACA. How will the Supreme Court find? I'm going to rely on the cards there. My intuitive feeling is that they're probably going to provide some protection for current, if they can, for current DACA recipients, but there might be some findings around the program. Whether it would continue or not, I don't know. I don't know how all that's going to pan out, but they were my feelings. But I'll open up another reading for that. In the meantime, this impeachment appears, according to these cards, you've seen them, appears to be going really well. And so supporting Adam Schiff and his team and Pelosi is very important at this time. And perhaps, I wonder why the GOP is not bringing forward any evidence and is only bringing forward conspiracy theories again. And we're done with those, aren't we? We're done. All right, so the majority is done with those. So perhaps the GOP is getting slapped in the face right now. And as voters actually demand change, not the cult of Trump, but the majority, as I call them, of right-thinking conservative and independent voters are demanding the GOP change, and this is the lesson for the GOP now. Thank you for tuning in, viewers.